The space station Aurora floated silently in the dark void between Earth and Mars, like a giant metal flower blooming in eternal night. Jake Miller worked there as a mechanic, fixing broken systems and keeping the old station running smooth. He was 28 years old with brown hair and calloused hands from years of hard work. That morning started like any other. Jake woke up in his small quarters, ate his protein breakfast, and checked his work schedule. The computer showed 12 repair jobs waiting for him. Mostly small stuff like broken air filters and jammed doors. Nothing exciting, just another regular day in space. He grabbed his toolkit and headed to the lower levels of the station. The corridors were empty since most people were still sleeping. Jake liked working early when he could think without interruption. His boots made soft sounds against the metal floor as he walked. The first few repairs went quick and easy. Jake had done this work so many times he could fix things with his eyes closed. But when he reached the cargo bay, something felt different. The air seemed charged with electricity, and there was a strange humming sound coming from behind the sealed doors. According to his work order, the bay was supposed to be empty and locked for maintenance. Jake checked his scanner and it showed no life signs inside. But the humming was getting louder, and now he could hear something else too. It sounded like singing, but not in any language he knew. Jake typed his security code into the door panel. The heavy doors slid open with a hiss, and what he saw inside made him freeze in complete shock. A woman stood in the center of the bay, but she was not human. Her skin had a faint silver glow, and her hair was pure white like moonlight. Her ears came to delicate points, and her eyes were the brightest green Jake had ever seen. She wore armor that seemed to be made from stars themselves, shifting and sparkling with every movement. But the woman was not alone. 3 creatures flew around her in lazy circles, and Jake realized with another shock that they were dragons, real, actual dragons about the size of house cats. One was brilliant blue, another deep red, and the third pure white. They had wings. They caught the light and long tails that moved like ribbons in water. The woman noticed Jake and smiled instead of being angry or afraid. "Hello, human," she said in a voice like wind chimes. "I did not expect company so early." Jake could not speak it. First, his brain was trying to process what his eyes were seeing. Elves were myths from old Earth stories. Dragons were fantasy creatures that never existed. But here, they both were right in front of him. "Who are you?" Jake finally managed to ask. "What are you doing here?" The woman tilted her head, studying him with those incredible green eyes. "My name is Luna Starweaver. I am what your people call an elf, though we prefer the term Eldari. These are my companions." She gestured to the dragons who had stopped flying and were now perched on various cargo containers watching Jake with intelligent eyes. "The blue one is Storm, because he loves flying through thunderclouds. The red one is Ember, for her warm heart. And the white one is Frost, who was born during a blizzard on my world." Jake set down his toolkit, slowly trying not to make sudden movements. "This has to be a dream," he said. Luna laughed, and it was the most beautiful sound Jake had ever heard. "No dream, human. I am very real, as are my dragons. We came here seeking help with what Jake asked." Taking a careful step closer, Luna's expression became sad. "My world is dying, our sun is fading, and our magic alone cannot save it. We heard stories that humans had developed technology that could reignite dying stars. We came to see if the stories were true." Jake knew about the Stellar Restoration Project. It was classified, but everyone on the station had heard rumors. The scientists had been working on it for years, but it was still experimental and dangerous. "Why come to me?" Jake asked. "I am just a mechanic." Luna smiled again. "Sometimes the universe guides us to exactly who we need to meet." She held out her hand, and Jake saw she was holding something. It was a sphere about the size of a baseball that glowed with soft golden light. It seemed to pulse like a heartbeat. "This is a heartstone," Luna explained. "It contains the essence of my world's magic. Very few can touch it without being burned. Those who can are special." Jake stared at the stone, feeling drawn to it in a way he could not explain. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "What happens if I touch it?" he asked. Luna's eyes sparkled with mystery. That depends on you, Jake Miller. Jake startled. How do you know my name? I know many things, Luna said. The Heartstone shows me possibilities and futures. In many of them, you are important. The dragons made soft chirping sounds as if agreeing with her. Storm. The blue one flew over and circled Jake's head once before. Returning to his perch, Your dragons are incredible, Jake said, changing the subject because the intensity in Luna's eyes was making him nervous. Are they dangerous? Only to those who threaten what they love. Luna replied, They are young still, barely, more than hatchlings. In a few years they will be much larger. How much larger? Jake asked. Luna smiled mysteriously. Large enough to ride through the stars. Before Jake could respond to that amazing statement, the station's alarm system suddenly activated. Red lights began flashing and a computerized voice announced security breach in Cargo Bay 7. All personnel evacuate immediately. Jake grabbed Luna's arm without thinking. We need to go. Security will be here in minutes. But Luna did not move. Instead, she looked at him with those piercing green eyes and asked, Do you trust me? Jake Miller. It was a crazy question to ask someone she had just met. But somehow Jake found himself nodding. Yes, then take the Heartstone, Luna said urgently, holding it out. To him, be brave, human. Show me that your kind still has heroes. Jake could hear boots running in the corridor outside. In seconds, security would burst through the door. He looked at the glowing stone, then at Luna's face. She was beautiful and mysterious, and definitely dangerous, but something in her eyes made him want to be brave. Jake reached out and grabbed the Heartstone. The moment Jake's fingers closed around the Heartstone, his entire world exploded into light and sensation. Energy rushed through his body like liquid fire, but instead of burning, it felt like coming alive for the first time. Every nerve ending sparked with power, and his vision expanded beyond normal human limits. He could suddenly see colors that had no names and hear sounds from across the entire station. The thoughts and emotions of every living being on Aurora pressed against his mind, like waves against a shore. It was overwhelming and magnificent and terrifying all at once. Luna caught him as he stumbled, her hands surprisingly strong. You are doing well, she said. Most humans would have fainted by now. The stone is testing you. Testing me for what? Jake gasped as another wave of energy pulsed through him, to see if you are worthy of the gift it offers. Luna, explained, her voice calm and soothing. The Heartstone does not just give power, it changes you at the deepest level. Only those with true courage can survive the transformation. The security team burst through the door at that moment. 6 guards in full armor with weapons drawn. They stopped short when they saw Luna and the dragons, their faces showing complete shock. Nobody move, the lead guard shouted, though his voice shook slightly. What are those things? They are friends, Jake said, surprised that he could speak normally, despite the storm of energy inside him. Please lower your weapons. Miller, what have you done? The guard asked. You were supposed to be doing maintenance. Jake wanted to explain, but suddenly the Heartstone pulsed harder and he dropped to his knees. The room started spinning and he could feel his body changing at a cellular level. His DNA was being rewritten. With each heartbeat, Luna stepped between Jake and the guards, her armor beginning to glow with defensive magic. Do not interfere, she warned. This human is under my protection. The guards raised their weapons higher, but before they could fire, the 3 dragons acted as one. Storm released a bolt of blue lightning that danced across the guards' armor without harming them, but shutting down all their electronics. Ember breathed out a cloud of warm red smoke that made the guards suddenly very sleepy, and Frost created a barrier of white ice between them and Jake. By the time the guards recovered, Jake's transformation was complete. He stood up slowly, feeling different in every possible way. His body was still human in shape, but everything else had changed. He was stronger, faster, and could sense things no human should be able to sense. I can hear them, Jake said in wonder, looking at the dragons. I can understand what they are thinking. Storm flew over and landed on his shoulder, chirping happily. The dragon's thoughts were clear in Jake's mind. New friend, new brother, welcome. Luna smiled proudly. The Heartstone has accepted you completely. This is very rare. Jake Miller. You are now what we call a bridge walker. What does that mean? Jake asked, still adjusting to his enhanced senses. It means you can walk between worlds, Luna explained. You can survive in environments that would kill normal humans. You can understand and use Eldari magic. And most importantly, you can help save my people. The guards were recovering from the dragon's gentle attack, but they seemed too confused to act. Their leader kept looking between Jake, Luna, and the dragons as if trying to decide if this was real Miller. The lead guard finally said, "Report. What is happening?" Here Jake turned to face them, noting how he could now see the heat signatures of their bodies through their armor, and hear their accelerated heartbeats. They are refugees from another world. Jake said, "They need our help." "That is impossible," the guard replied. "There are no other worlds with intelligent life." Luna laughed softly. "Your scientists have barely explored your own solar system and you think you know everything about the universe. There are thousands of inhabited worlds, human. You simply have not found them yet." Suddenly the cargo bay doors opened again and a figure entered that made everyone, including Luna, go silent. It was another elf, but this one radiated power like a sun. His hair was silver like Luna's, but his presence was overwhelming. He wore robes that seemed to be cut from the night sky itself, complete with moving stars. "Father," Luna whispered. So the tall elf said in a voice that made the walls vibrate, "This is the human you chose." His eyes were ancient and impossible to read as they studied Jake. "You gave him the Heartstone without permission, daughter." "Lord Asteron, please," Luna began, but her father raised a hand for silence. The elf lord walked closer to Jake, each step deliberate and measured. Jake felt power pressing against him, testing him, judging him. He stood his ground even though every instinct told him to run. "You are brave," the elf lord said finally. "That is good. Courage will be needed for what comes next. Tell me, human, what do you know of the war between stars?" "Nothing," Jake admitted. "There is no such warlord." Asteron smiled, but it was not a pleasant expression. "Not in your small section of space, perhaps, but the universe is vast and full of dangers. My people have been fighting to keep those dangers from reaching younger races like yours." He waved his hand and the air shimmered. Suddenly Jake could see images floating before him. Cities made of crystal under alien suns. Massive ships that looked like living creatures battling in the void between galaxies, and darkness, a terrible hungry darkness that consumed everything it touched, the Devourers. Lord Asteron said, "They consume entire solar systems, leaving nothing but empty void behind. For 10,000 years the Eldari have held them back, but we are dying, our numbers too few, our magic fading. That is why I came here." Luna added desperately, "Humans are young, but you adapt quickly. Your technology combined with our magic might be enough to stop the Devourers permanently." Jake absorbed this information, his enhanced mind processing it faster than should be possible. "You want us to fight in a war we did not even know existed?" "No," Lord Asteron said, "I want you specifically, Jake Miller, to be the first bridge between our peoples. The Heartstone chose you. That makes you our ambassador, whether you like it or not." The guards had been listening to all this in stunned silence. Finally, their leader spoke up. "This is too big for us to handle. We need to contact Earth Command." "That would be unwise," Lord Asteron said. "Your governments would react with fear. They would try to capture us, study us, perhaps dissect us to understand our power. No, first we prove ourselves through action, then we reveal ourselves properly." He turned back to Jake. "You have 1 Earth month to learn our ways and prove that humanity is ready for the truth Luna will teach you. If you succeed, we will share technology that will advance your race by centuries. If you fail, we leave and never return." Jake felt the weight of this responsibility, but also excitement. This was the adventure he had always dreamed of, even if he never admitted it. "But sir, what about my job here?" The station lord Asteron laughed to sound like distant thunder. "Your job now is to save 2 civilizations from extinction. I think that takes priority over fixing air filters." The elf lord began to fade like mist in sunlight. 1 month, Bridgewalker. Use it wisely. And remember, I am always watching." When he vanished completely, Everyone in the cargo bay stood in shocked silence for several seconds. Well, Jake finally said, looking at Luna and her dragons, "I guess we better get started." The next few days passed in a blur of impossible experiences. Jake had been given special clearance by the station commander, after a very awkward meeting where Luna had demonstrated her magic by making flowers bloom from the metal conference table. The commander, a tough woman named Captain Lisa Chen, had agreed to give them a restricted section of the station for training. Luna had transformed an empty cargo bay into something from a fairy tale. The walls now showed scenes from her home world, with purple skies and floating mountains. The floor had become soft grass that should not exist on a space station, and in the center grew a tree with silver bark and golden leaves. "This is a piece of my world," Luna explained as Jake entered for his morning training session. "The Heartstone allows me to bring small parts of it here. It will help you learn." The three dragons were playing in the tree branches, chasing each other like puppies. Jake could understand their mental chatter now. Storm was arguing with Ember about who could fly faster, while Frost just wanted everyone to take a nap first lesson. Luna said, "Is movement. The Heartstone has enhanced your body, but you do not know how to use it." Yet, she was right. Jake had already broken 3 doors by pushing too hard and accidentally jumped nearly 20 feet when he tried to hop over a small obstacle. His new strength was incredible, but uncontrolled. Luna moved with liquid grace as she demonstrated a series of movements. "Watch how I flow with the energy, not against it. Your human instinct is to force everything, but Eldari power responds better to gentle guidance." Jake tried to copy her movements, but felt clumsy like a bear trying to dance. Luna was patient, though never laughing when he stumbled or crashed into things. She would just smile and show him again. "You are thinking too much," she said. "Let your body remember what it already knows." "What do you mean?" Jake asked, frustrated after failing the same move 10 times. "The Heartstone did not just give you power," Luna explained. "It gave you genetic memories from the first bridgewalkers who lived thousands of years ago. Your body knows how to do this. Your mind just needs to stop interfering." Jake closed his eyes and tried to stop thinking. He let his muscles move on their own, following instincts he did not know he had. Suddenly he was flowing through the movements perfectly, his body remembering ancient patterns. "Excellent," Luna said with genuine pride. "Now we can begin the real training." She taught him how to see energy fields around living things, how to feel the electromagnetic currents that flowed through the station, and how to sense danger before it appeared. The dragons helped too, showing him how to project his thoughts and how to create simple shields with his mindstorm. Was the best teacher for combat skills. The blue dragon might be small, but he was fierce. He would dive at Jake, forcing him to dodge and block with increasing speed. By the end of the week, Jake could move faster than any human should be able to. Ember taught him about warmth and healing. She showed him how the Heartstone could repair damaged tissue and boost immune systems. Jake practiced on injured lab rats from the medical bay, watching in amazement as cuts closed and bones mended under his touch. Frost was the philosopher of the group. She would sit on Jake's lap during rest periods and share images of distant worlds and ancient civilizations. Through her, Jake learned that the universe was far stranger and more wonderful than humans had ever imagined. But it was Luna who taught him the most important lessons. She showed him how to navigate between dimensions, how to open doorways to other worlds, and how to communicate with technology using pure thought. "Your scientist would call it quantum entanglement," Luna explained as they stood before a shimmering portal she had created. "But we simply call it the web. Everything in the universe is connected." Jake. "Every atom, every star, every living thing. We can feel those connections and use them." Jake reached out and touched the portal, feeling reality bend around his fingers. On the other side, he could see Luna's dying world. The sun was indeed fading, casting everything in twilight colors. Cities that once gleamed now stood empty, and forests were turning gray. "How many of your people are left?" Jake asked quietly. "Less than 1,000,000, Luna said sadly, her usual cheerfulness dimming. "We were once billions." But the failing sun has made our world barely livable. That is why my father is so desperate. He watches our civilization ending day by day. Jake felt anger rise in him. It was not fair that an entire race of beings so beautiful and advanced could just fade away. There had to be something they could do. Tell me about the stellar restoration technology, Jake said. I know the basics, but I need details. Luna's eyes brightened with hope. Your scientists discovered how to trigger fusion reactions in dying stars using quantum field manipulation. The process requires enormous energy and precise calculations. But it can work. We have the magic to provide the energy. But we need your technology to focus it. Could we really save your son? Jake asked. Luna nodded eagerly. Yes, but we would need both races working together. And that means convincing your people that we exist and are not a threat. That would be the hardest part. Jake knew humanity did not have a great track record of accepting things that were different. But maybe if they presented it right, focusing on the benefits rather than the fears. Over the next 2 weeks, Jake's training intensified. He learned to merge human technology with Eldari magic, making devices work in ways their designers never intended. He could now interface directly with computers, downloading information instantly. He could feel the station's vital signs like it was a living thing. The dragons grew more attached to him too. Storm would sleep, curled around his neck. Ember would warm his coffee with her breath, and Frost would create beautiful ice sculptures to decorate his quarters. They were becoming family in a way Jake had never expected. Luna, and Jake grew closer as well. She would tell him stories of her world during mealtimes, sharing memories of festivals under 3 moons and songs that could make stones weep. Jake would share Earth stories in return, telling her about oceans and storms and the way spring felt after a long winter. One evening, as they watched Earth spin slowly outside the observation window, Luna said something that changed everything. Jake, there is something I must tell you about the Heartstone. She began nervously. It creates a bond between the one who gives it and the one who receives it. What kind of bond? Jake asked, though part of him already knew. Luna's cheeks turned slightly pink, which was adorable on her silver skin. A life bond. In my culture, it is similar to what you call marriage, but deeper. The bond connects souls across any distance, even death. Jake's enhanced heart skipped several beats. You mean we are not yet? Luna said quickly. The bond is not complete unless both choose it freely. I would never force such a thing, but you should know that the possibility exists. The Heartstone saw something in us that could be beautiful. Before Jake could respond, alarms started blaring throughout the station. This was not a drill. Something was seriously wrong. Captain Chen's voice came over the intercom. All hands, battle stations, unknown vessels approaching Earth perimeter. They are not responding to communications. Luna went pale with fear. No, it cannot be. They found us. Who found you? Jake asked, already knowing he would not like the answer. The Devourers. Luna whispered, they must have followed my trail through space. This is what Father feared would happen. They have come to feed on your son. Jake and Luna ran through the station corridors toward the command center with the 3 dragons flying behind them. People were panicking, running in all directions as emergency lights flashed red. The enhanced senses from the Heartstone let Jake feel their fear like a physical weight. When they reached the command center, Captain Chen was staring at the main display screen in horror. 3 massive ships hung in space near Earth's moon. But ships was not really the right word. They looked more like living creatures made of shadow and hunger. They pulsed with dark energy, and where they passed, stars seemed to dim. What are those things? Captain Chen demanded when she saw Luna Devourers. Luna said grimly, they feed on stellar energy, on life itself. If they reach Earth's sun, your entire solar system will die. How do we fight them? Chen asked her military training. Overcoming her shock, Luna looked desperate. Our weapons will not work on them. They exist partially in another dimension. Physical. Attacks pass right through. Then what do we do? Jake asked. Luna turned to him with fear in her green eyes. There is one way, but it is dangerous. The Heartstone can generate a quantum barrier, but it would require enormous power. More than one person can channel safely. I will do it. Jake said immediately. No, Luna protested. You are not ready. The strain could kill you. Then we do it together, Jake replied, taking her hand. The bond you mentioned? If we complete it, we can share the power. Luna's eyes widened. You do not understand what you are asking. The bond is permanent, eternal. Even if we survive, you would be connected to me forever. Jake squeezed her hand gently. I understand perfectly, and my answer is yes. Captain. Chen interrupted their moment. I hate to rush whatever this is, but those things are moving toward Earth. Luna nodded and pulled Jake to the center of the room. She began speaking in her musical language, and the air around them started to glow. The three dragons formed a circle around them, adding their own energy to the building power. Jake felt Luna's presence in his mind, gentle and warm like sunlight. She was scared, but determined, and underneath it all, he felt something else. She cared for him, had been falling for him, since that first day in the cargo bay. I feel the same, Jake told her mentally. The bond snapped into place like a key turning in a lock. Suddenly, Jake was not just himself anymore. He could feel Luna's thoughts, her memories, her very soul. They were two beings, but also one united by the Heartstone's power. Together they reached out with their combined strength, feeling for the devourers in space. The creatures were hungry, ancient things that had consumed countless worlds. They were drawn to Earth's young, sun-like moths to flame. Not today, Jake and Luna said in unison. Power erupted from them in a golden wave that expanded outward from the station. It raced through space faster than light, creating a barrier between Earth and the devourers. The creatures struck the barrier and screamed a sound that echoed across dimensions. But the devourers were strong, and there were three of them. The barrier began to crack under their assault. Jake could feel his body burning from the inside as he channeled more power than any human was meant to handle. Even with Luna sharing the load, it was too much. The dragons suddenly joined the link. Storm, Ember, and Frost poured their own life force into the barrier. Their small bodies glowed like stars as they gave. Everything they had. It is still not enough. Luna gasped, blood running from her nose. We need more power. That was when something unexpected happened. Every person on the station suddenly felt the psychic call for help. Through the Heartstone's connection, Jake had unconsciously reached out to every human nearby, and one by one they responded. Captain Chen was the first, placing her hand on Jake's shoulder. I do not understand any of this, but Earth is my home. Take whatever you need. The security guards joined next, then the scientists, the engineers, the cooks, the janitors. Every human on Aurora Station formed a chain of hands and hearts, lending their strength to the fight. They could not channel magic, but they had something else, human stubbornness, and the absolute refusal to give up. Jake felt their power flow through him, raw and untrained but fierce. Their determination mixed with the Eldari magic, creating something entirely new. Humanity's greatest strength had always been their ability to unite against impossible odds. The golden barrier blazed brighter, pushing the devourers back. The creatures fought harder, sensing their meal escaping. But they had never faced humans before, never encountered a race that grew stronger when threatened. Then, Lord Astron appeared in the command center, not gradually but all at once, like reality had blinked. His presence was like a thunderstorm given form. He looked at the united humans and his daughter and Jake, and for the first time showed genuine surprise. Impossible, he breathed. Humans cannot channel magic. We are not channeling it, Jake said through gritted teeth. We are becoming it, Lord. Asteron's expression shifted from surprise to something like respect. He raised his staff and added his immense power to theirs. The barrier solidified, becoming impenetrable. The devourers struck it again and again but could not break through, finally realizing they could not win. The shadow creatures retreated. They dissolved back into the darkness between, stars wounded and weakened. It would be centuries before they could threaten anyone again. As the danger passed, everyone collapsed. Jake caught Luna as she fell, both of them completely exhausted. The dragons landed nearby, barely conscious but alive. Captain Chen had to sit down hard, her legs shaking. Lord Asteron remained standing, studying the humans with new interest. You did something we thought impossible, he said. Humans with no magical training should not have been able to join such a working. Maybe, Luna said weakly. That is because you never gave us the chance to try. The elf lord nodded slowly. Perhaps you are right. Perhaps we have underestimated humanity. He looked at Jake. You have passed the test. Bridge Walker. More than passed it. You have shown that our races can do more together than apart. Does this mean, Jake began? It means Lord Asteron interrupted, that the Eldari will share our knowledge with humanity openly. We will teach you to travel the stars to heal your sick, to extend your lives, and in return you will help us restore our dying sun captain. Chen stood up, still shaky but determined. On behalf of Earth, I accept your offer, though I should probably get official permission. First, Lord Asteron actually smiled at that. Your governments will argue and debate for months, but the work begins now. Time is short and there is much to do. He waved his staff and suddenly the command center was full of elves, dozens of them appearing from nowhere. They looked around with curious eyes, studying the human technology and the humans themselves with fascination. Luna squeezed Jake's hand. We did it, she whispered. We actually did it. Jake looked at the mixed crowd of humans and elves already starting to talk to each other despite the language barriers. He felt the bond humming between him and Luna, permanent and unbreakable. He saw the dragons recovering their strength, making happy chirping sounds. This is just the beginning. Jake said change is never easy, but I think we are ready for it. Storm flew up and perched on Jake's shoulder, nuzzling his cheek. The little dragon's thoughts were clear. Bridgewalker brings hope. Bridgewalker brings unity. Bridgewalker brings tomorrow. Jake smiled and pulled Luna closer. Tomorrow sounded perfect. 6 months had passed since the Devourers attacked Earth and everything had changed. Jake stood on the observation deck of the new ship Harmony, which was part human technology and part Eldari magic. It could travel between stars in heartbeats and carried the first mixed crew of both races. Luna stood beside him, her hand in his, as they watched Earth shrink behind them. They were heading to her world to attempt the Sun Restoration Project. The ship carried the most advanced fusion technology humanity had ever created, merged with Eldari crystals that could channel stellar energy. The integration had not been easy at first. Earth's governments had panicked when Lord Asteron revealed the existence of the Eldari to the world. Some wanted to attack, others wanted to hide. But when the elves shared their medical knowledge and cured diseases that had plagued humanity for centuries, opinions started to change. Jake had become the official ambassador between the races, though he still felt more like a mechanic who had gotten very lucky. The Heartstone's power had grown stronger with use, and now he could open portals between worlds with just a thought. He could heal serious injuries and speak any language instantly. But the best part was the bond with Luna. It was like having a constant companion in his mind, someone who understood him completely. They could share thoughts and feelings across any distance. It had saved their lives more than once during the integration period, when fear and misunderstanding had nearly led to violence. Storm, Ember, and Frost had grown considerably in 6 months. Now, the size of large dogs, they could carry messages between worlds, and their fire could melt through any material. The dragons had become symbols of the Alliance, with toys and pictures of them everywhere. On Earth, Captain Lisa Chen had been promoted to Admiral and given command of Earth's first interstellar fleet. She had taken to the new reality with remarkable adaptability, learning Eldari combat techniques and teaching human military strategy in return. Many humans had volunteered to receive lesser Heartstones created by Lord Asteron. These did not grant full Bridgewalker powers, but they allowed basic magic use and enhanced physical abilities. Earth's population was evolving rapidly. The ship's mixed crew worked in perfect harmony. Now human engineers maintained the mechanical systems, while Eldari mages kept the magical components running. They had learned each other's languages and customs, sharing meals and stories during the long journey. Jake's friend Amy from Earth had joined the crew as a xenobiologist. She was fascinated by the dragons and spent hours studying them, much to Frost's amusement. The white dragon had taken a particular liking to her and would often create ice sculptures of DNA helixes to make her laugh as they approached the Eldari homeworld. Jake felt Luna's sadness through their bond. The planet looked worse than before, with barely any light reaching the surface. The dying sun cast everything in deep shadows. There, she said, pointing to a city that still showed signs of life. That is where I was born. The crystal spire of morning light, it was beautiful even in the darkness, buildings that seemed to be grown rather than built, spiraling up like frozen music. But Jake could see that many were crumbling, and the streets were mostly empty. Lord Asteron met them when they landed, bringing the remaining Eldari leadership. With him, they looked at the human technology with a mixture of hope and skepticism. Many had never believed this day would come. Can it really work? An elderly elf woman asked. Will your machines truly restore our sun, Admiral? Chen stepped forward with confidence. Our scientists have run every simulation. The fusion catalyst combined with your stellar crystals should trigger a chain reaction that restores your sun to full strength. It will take time, perhaps a year, for complete restoration, but it will work. Jake and Luna would be the conduits for the massive energy transfer. Their bond made them the only ones capable of handling such power. The dragons would help stabilize the flow while teams of humans and Eldari worked the technology and magic in perfect synchronization. They set up the equipment at the ancient solar temple, a massive structure that had once been used to worship the sun before it began dying. Jake could feel the history in the stones, the millions of prayers that had been offered here. As they prepared, Luna pulled Jake aside. I am scared, she admitted. What if something goes wrong? What if we fail? Jake held her close, feeling her heart beat against his chest. We will not fail. We have come too far to give up now. And besides, you have me, the dragons, and about 1,000 humans and elves all working together. If that cannot save a sun, nothing. Ken Luna smiled and kissed him, a gesture she had learned from human culture, but had made her own. You always know what to say, Bridgewalker. The process began at dawn, or what passed for dawn on the dying world. Jake and Luna stood in the center of the temple. Hands joined while the dragons circled overhead. The fusion reactor hummed with power as the stellar crystals began to glow. Energy flowed through them like a river of light. Jake felt his consciousness expand, touching the dying sun itself. It was ancient and tired, but not dead, just sleeping, waiting for someone to wake it up together. Jake and Luna pushed power into the star. Their human and Eldari energies merged, creating something neither race could achieve alone. The dragons added their strength, and suddenly, the connection was complete. The sun flickered once, twice, then began to brighten. It was slow at first, barely noticeable, but then the change accelerated. Light, real warm light, began to fill the sky for the first time in decades. The Eldari throughout the city began to sing a haunting melody of joy and gratitude. Tears streamed down Lord Asteron's face as he watched his world's sun return to life. Plants that had been dormant for years began to open their leaves. Birds that had been hiding in deep caves emerged to greet the light. The process took 12 hours. Jake and Luna pouring everything they had into the restoration. When it was finally complete, they collapsed into each other's arms, exhausted, but victorious. The sun blazed overhead, young and strong again. It would burn for billions more years, giving life to the Eldari world and any others they chose to settle. The crisis was over. Lord Asteron approached them and did something unexpected. He knelt. This old elf offers his deepest gratitude, he said formally. You have given us back our future. Jake helped him stand. Uncomfortable with the gesture, we helped each other. That is what allies do. More than allies, Lord Asteron corrected. Family. Over the following weeks, the Eldari world came back to life. Cities that had been abandoned were reclaimed. Forests began to grow again. Oceans that had been freezing started to warm. It was like watching a whole planet wake up from a long sleep. Jake and Luna decided to split their time between Earth and the Eldari world. They had become symbols of unity for both races. Their children, if they had them, would be something entirely new. Bridgewalkers from birth with the best of both races, Storm, Ember, and Frost, continued to grow. Eventually, they would be large enough to ride through space itself, carrying messages and passengers between worlds. They were the first of many dragons that would bond with humans in the years to come. The universe had become a much bigger place for humanity, but also a less lonely one. The Eldari shared their knowledge of other races and worlds, preparing Earth for its entry into the galactic community. And Jake, the mechanic who had just been fixing air filters, became the first human to walk between stars. As he stood with Luna watching the sunset on her restored world, Jake thought about how much had changed because he had chosen to be brave that day in the cargo bay. One moment of courage had saved 2 civilizations. Luna sensed his thoughts and smiled, her hand finding his. "You have no regrets?" she asked. Jake looked at her, at the dragons playing in the sky, at the 2 races working together to build something amazing. How could I regret the best thing that ever happened to me? The future stretched out before them, bright with possibility. Humanity and the Eldari would face whatever came next together. And somewhere out in the darkness between stars, the Devourers nursed their wounds and learned to fear the alliance of magic and determination. But that was a problem for another day. Today was for celebration, for joy, for the promise of tomorrow. And for Jake Miller, former mechanic and current bridge walker, it was perfect.